Shalom, brothers and sisters.
Shalom, everybody.
So I was asking my good friend Nick here, what's a kingdom principle, Nick?
A kingdom principle. All right, so we kind of mentioned some in the last video, like, you know, with the businesses. Like, for anything successful, you need to have patience, discipline, diligence, no lying, cheating, stealing, and if all those things are in order, you're going to be successful in the world, like, let alone being spiritual.
Right.
So that's like this thing, but yeah. So these spiritual, what you ask, kingdom principles?
Kingdom from above principle.
Yes.
That we need to, show and have.
So it all stems out of love. So there is the doctrine of love, which is what the Bible is. And then anything opposite that is the enemy, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's basically the kingdom principles are anything that comes out of love, or putting your neighbor as yourself, or Elohim above you.
Right.
Johnny, you just said.
And, because I was saying that we put Elohim above all because that's where the love comes from.
Yes.
To give to your neighbors. So he is the love.
Yes.
Energy that and.
So basically, like what you're saying is, if you love Elohim, naturally you're gonna love your neighbor anyway.
Right. If you put Elohim above you, that's why you will love your neighbor, and that's exactly what would happen.
Yes.
Because that's a kingdom principle he established.
Yes.
To love, and we're not talking about this love of the world, because I think the world has redefined a lot of definitions, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about real love, which is to uphold righteousness, and justice with each other,
Let's talk to the people about, real quick, what are the opposite things of the love or the kingdom principles, and that'll help us navigate a little bit. So the opposite would be selfishness, or lying to get my way. So putting my safety or whatever at a higher priority than the truth. So it's like basically lying so that my neighbor who I'm lying to doesn't know, so I don't get in trouble, but then I'm basically putting my self-priority above themselves.
So it's like pridefulness, exalting yourself.
Right. Same thing with the lying. It's the same thing with the stealing. I want something. I'm more important than them. I deserve this thing more than them. And that's the opposite of love. It's putting yourself first. So the opposite of that doctrine is love, which is to be the opposite. Give to your neighbor.
Right.
Tell the truth.
Right?
And so one of my favorite stories, I think a lot of people's favorite, is like David. But my favorite part in that story of David, when he's fighting Goliath, is when, the slingshot, is like before David fights Goliath. His dad asks him, because, so the Philistines send out Goliath, and then Saul, the Israel king at the time, was like, all right, any of you men who takes down this giant Philistine, I'm going to give you riches. I'm going to give you a woman. I'm going to give your father a place to live in the high kingdom, whatever. So he used that as the incentive, and that still wasn't strong enough to encourage these guys to go and fight this Philistine. So those being your incentives, it means that's not strong. That's not aligning yourself with the incentives that give you this strength, basically. And so David didn't have these incentives. By the way, these incentives are all for yourself. These are for me to be rich, for me to have this woman that I want, and for my dad, who is my dad, whatever. But for actually, I don't know. But what David does is that his dad asks him at this time when Saul is telling these people about their incentives. David's dad's like, hey David, while your brothers are out standing in line in the army, go bring them bread and cheese from our flock. And we know that David is a shepherd, right? And so he has his flock. And he fights and kills bears and lions to protect his flock. And so his incentive is the flock, the protection of others, love others. It's not himself. His incentive is the flock. And so guess what? Israel becomes David's flock. How do you have a flock? What basically is a flock? Something that you are providing for.
Something that you're taking care of, that you're providing for, that you're guiding.
So if you're the leader of the family, your family is what you're providing for. So guess what? What does Israel become to David when he feeds them bread and cheese? It becomes his flock.
That's
So
right.
now Israel, after feeding them the bread and cheese, has become his incentive. He loves Israel, and
protect,
he's now has the power of love to defeat Goliath rather than the incentives
Hallelujah.
that Saul was giving those other guys. That right there is really a good one for me
Yeah.
to think about kingdom
It's
principles.
so amazing. So that's, you know, David, I don't even know if David heard what Shaul was saying.
He wasn't.
right?
No,
So-
he was just focused on providing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. He just going to provide, and then he sees a bear in Goliath or a lion
Right.
coming against
Yes.
Israel, and he's like, I gotta protect.
Yeah.
So he stood up and praise Yah. He stood up.
Yeah.
See that? See that dove fly by?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, praise Yah and stay encouraged. Always, always
Yah.
love Yah and
Yes,
each other.
It's all about love, love, love.
Woo! I love it. Shalom,
Shalom,
brothers and
everybody.
sisters.